All right, so let's talk about Indian cricket. For years, they've been the undisputed superpower of the game, right? But now, in the sport's most prestigious format, Test cricket, they're facing a massive crisis. A pretty shocking recent loss has shown some deep cracks, and it's raising some big questions about what the country's priorities really are. Today, we're going to unpack what went wrong and why this is about so much more than just one bad result.
Okay, so it all really blew up in November of 2025. A crushing 408-run loss to South Africa in Gautam that didn't just seal a 2-0 series whitewash. No, this was India's heaviest test defeat on home soil, ever.
Look, this wasn't just a loss, it was an absolute demolition. For a team that was once considered invincible at home, a fortress, this result was the final alarm bell. It's the culmination of a really worrying trend that has everyone, from fans to officials, scrambling for answers.
I mean, put yourself in South Africa's shoes for a second. This was a monumental win for them, their first series victory in India since the year 2000. But for India, oh man, for India, this was a giant flashing red light, a really clear signal that something, somewhere, is fundamentally broken.
So what happens when things go this badly? Well, you know the drill. The blame game starts. And predictably, the first place everyone looked was the coaching staff. Almost immediately, reports started flying that the BCCI is planning a major overhaul, with some heads already on the chopping block. Now, head coach Gautam Gambhir is definitely feeling the heat. His record in Test cricket has been pretty tough. But interestingly, the whispers are that it's his hand-picked support staff who are first in the firing line. The bowling coach, Morne Morkel, for example, has been getting a lot of criticism for, well, a failure to really bring up any new, exciting fast bowlers. And this isn't just speculation. An inside source basically told The Telegraph in no uncertain terms that the support staff's work just hasn't been good enough. They said the contributions, especially in Test cricket, have fallen short of expectations, which, is the polite way of saying they just haven't gotten the job done.
But here's the million-dollar question, right? Is just changing the coaches really enough to fix this? Because when you look at all the evidence, this historic loss, it wasn't a one-off disaster. It's more like the most obvious symptom of a much deeper, more troubling problem.
Just look at this. India has now lost 2 straight Test series at home. And they weren't just losses. They were whitewashes by both New Zealand and South Africa. This kind of thing is basically unheard of in the modern era. You'd have to go all the way back to the early 1980s to find anything similar. That whole aura of invincibility at home? Yeah, that's been completely shattered.
And it's not just the results. There have been a whole series of just baffling decisions that point to a bigger failure in the system. Critics are pointing to this forced, manufactured move away from senior players without having anyone really ready to step up. Add to that not picking a world-class spinner like Kuldeep Yadav, and then picking a pace bowler who could barely break 120 kilometers an hour, it just paints a picture of really poor management.
But, okay, to really get to the bottom of all this, you have to do one thing. Follow the money. Because in Indian cricket, it seems like all roads lead back to one single financial juggernaut.
We are talking about the Board of Control for Cricket in India, the BCCI. But you gotta understand, this isn't just some sports body. It's an absolute financial powerhouse. I mean, last fiscal year, their income was on par with some of India's biggest corporations. But where all that money comes from, that's what tells the real story. Yep, more than half of that enormous pile of cash comes from just one tournament, the Indian Premier League. The IPL isn't just the richest cricket league on the planet. It's the financial engine that has totally transformed the BCCI from just a sports administrator into a global commercial giant. And this creates this just stark, almost unbelievable contrast. On one side, you have the IPL. It's franchise-based, it's white ball cricket, it's a thriving commercial superpower worth billions. But then on the other side, you have the national test team, struggling with back-to-back defeats at home and stuck in a transition that feels a lot more forced than it does planned.
So, this brings us back to the most critical point. What if the problem isn't just the coach? What if firing the staff is like putting a Band-Aid on a much bigger wound? This whole thing reframes the debate, and it shifts the focus away from just one guy to the very foundation of what Indian cricket really prioritizes.
Columnist Prem Pennicker, I think, argued this perfectly. He said, focusing all the blame on Gautam Gambhir is just a distraction. He's a symptom. The real disease, he says, lies in the system itself,
a system that more and more seems to prioritize commercial success over actual cricketing substance.
And that leaves us with this final, really challenging question. This whole crisis has basically forced Indian cricket into an identity crisis. So what does it want to be? Is its future as a serious, respected test-playing nation, the format that's considered the soul of the game? Or has it become so obsessed with its white ball commercial juggernaut that everything else has become secondary? The answer to that is going to define the next chapter of Indian cricket.